Hello everyone and welcome to Zelda Speedruns 2, where today we are hosting the quarterfinal 4 for the A Link Between Worlds 80% tournament. With me today I have our wonderful commentator.
I was muted. Okay, hello, I'm Purple Photon.
Hi Purple Photon, aka our wonderful commentator. How you doing?
Doing well, looking forward to some good ALBW action. Got Romulost versus Edeas, so this will be interesting. Alright, there they go. Yeah, so ALBW 90%. Been a lot of matches recently. We're at the quarterfinals. This is the quarterfinal 4 matchup. Got Romulus on the left is the 4 seed, Edeas on the right, who named Link Romulus, of course. He's the 5 seed. Romulost was actually the #1 overall seed going into the Swiss portion of the tournament, but he forfeited his last match, so that dropped his seeding quite a bit. But it could be a pretty close match, so we'll see how this goes. Pretty standard, you know. Gotta save at the first weather vane. Don't forget that. You'll lose a lot of time. You'll really want to reset when you do that. And yeah, getting into the game. Lots of text. But it changes very quickly from what's the intended order of the game. Supposed to bring the sword to the sanctuary because the captain leaves it behind at the blacksmith. But Link's got other plans here. Yeah, they're instead going to go to Kakariko and they're going to activate the Weather Vane here. Weather Vanes are going to allow them to warp later on once they get the bell. And they're just going to get it now because they're just a small detour. They're really interested in going to Death Mountain early using a trick called Power Glove Skip. Normally later in the game when you want to go to Death Mountain, you're supposed to get an item, the Power Gloves, which allows you to lift small rocks. And there's a bunch of small rocks blocking the path to Death Mountain, but instead they can do a damage boost off of this crow and get over the rocks. And that's basically the only required use of the Power Glove in the game. There's a bunch of like optional uses if you're getting things like Maya-Mai's or Heart Pieces and stuff, but that's pretty much the only required use, and it's that easy to skip it. It can be really annoying if you mess it up because a lot of runners just reset and it's kind of slow. Romulus was very good luck. He got a red rupee. Both the runners want 10, at least 10 rupees in this cave. And if they don't get 10 by the end of the cave, they're going to have to wait for falling rocks to break rocks on the ground. That'll spawn more rupees. Which looks like what Edeas is going to have to do. Getting a red is very rare, so that's very good luck from Romulus. He is on half a heart. He does want to make sure he doesn't die before he activates the Weather Vane here. That'd be very bad. Looks like he made it. And Edeas got some good luck with an early rock dropping, early rocks dropping on those rocks. Instead, if that hadn't happened, you would have had to activate the Weather Vane and then go off to the right. There's a bunch more rocks that will drop rupees when the falling rocks break them. The reason they need 10 rupees is because they're going to want to rent 2 items right now. Oh yeah, so the shop is just here now because there's 2 things in the game that trigger the full item shop, one of which is that cutscene on Death Mountain that they watch, which is the whole reason they want to go to Death Mountain early. The other one is the flippers, which is possible to do early, but a lot more difficult and slower. So they do this to get the item on, or the item shop early. And then they're going to want to rent 2 items. Ram is renting the Fire Rod. That's to save rupees, even though he doesn't actually need the Fire Rod now. Renting the Fire Rod later is 100 rupees, but no matter what you do, the first item you rent is always free. And then they need the bow to finish Eastern Palace, and the bow, which is supposed to be the first item you get, if you were to then die and need to re-rent it, it would be 10 rupees. So up until you beat Eastern Palace, renting the bow is 10 rupees. And now they're finally going to be heading to the Sanctuary. Return the sword to the captain. Then they're just going to use the sword for themselves, which they should have been doing all along. Because Link's not smart, and he doesn't realize he can use the sword that he's holding. Anyways, what are their PBs? Romulost's PB is a 122, not sure on the seconds, and I think Edeas has a 129. Also not sure on the seconds there.
Hi.
So as they go throughout the Sanctuary, they're going to be picking up 50 rupees, and that's needed in order to rent the Tornado Rod, which is going to allow them to do a big sequence break in Eastern Palace. The reason they even need to come to the Sanctuary is they can't actually use items until they've gotten the lamp, and they need to beat the Sanctuary in order to get to Low Roll later on. If you don't beat the Sanctuary, the game doesn't advance to a state where you can meet Zelda in Hyrule Castle, and if you never meet Zelda in Hyrule Castle, you can't go up Hyrule Castle later on to get to Low Roll. You also can't just leave the Sanctuary right now by walking out. You would have to Death Warp, which is bad because then they lose their items. Dampé doesn't actually let you leave unless you finish the Sanctuary. He'll like stop you from walking off the screen, I think. Yeah, navigating this area in the dark can be a little bit challenging, but most runners are used to it. The rats tend to be in the same, or almost the same location every time, with some variation, so it's pretty easy to adapt to their patterns. And it's a little random whether or not you get all 3 of the ghosts in one spin attack, but it's not too big of a deal if you don't. Yeah, good cutscene. So because we activated the full item shop before the initial Ravio in Link's house, which we call the pre-shop, there's just going to be 2 Ravios for the entire game. Normally the original Ravio goes away when you activate the full shop, but we did it in the opposite order, so this Ravio is never going to go away. It's not a big deal other than a few extra text boxes. It's a bigger deal on 100% when you need to buy the bow. It can be bad if you die and you don't know how to get access to the bow, because the bow is an important item to have throughout the entire run. But hopefully that won't happen. I believe both of these runners know how to re-rent the bow, if that is absolutely necessary. Now that they have the Tornado Rod, they're going to go straight to Eastern Palace. Like I said, normally after beating the Sanctuary, you're supposed to go to Hyrule Castle and meet with Zelda. But because you have items early, you can skip that trip and then do all of Hyrule Castle in one trip. Like meeting with Zelda and going to Lorel at the same time, instead of making 2 trips. And they don't need this weather rain because they're not coming back here. So Eastern Palace, the first floor is pretty standard. They want to make an early cycle on these rolling balls. They're going to do it like a take damage to get invulnerability and then walk through the big one and then make a cycle so they don't have to walk around that set of small ones after the big one. And they're still need more rupees to run more items and also get the smooth gem in order to get the flippers, which is 200 rupees. They'll be buying that after Eastern Palace. So they're going to be collecting a lot of rupees, including in that hidden fairy room. It's got about 50 rupees in it. It's very fast. There is an alternative rupee route where you rent the Tornado Rod at the beginning, and then you get the bombs before Eastern Palace, and then you would delay the Fire Rod until later on. And then you would slightly change the rupee route, but that requires more RNG because you need more rupees. Because you're renting the Fire Rod later. Some routes also get the hammer before Eastern Palace, and that allows you to get a fast 100 rupees behind some hammer pegs. It's usually due to preference, although more and more people recently have been doing the Fire Rod first route, because it's got the least RNG. So here we have Eastern Palace boss key skip, using a trick called a Tornado Rod lift. They're going to Tornado Rod as this... That was a red rupee from Edeas. They're going to Tornado Rod as this Armos is hitting them. Or they're going to get hit by the Armos, and then Tornado Rod as their invulnerability is running out, and then their invulnerability will run out in mid-air. And then the Armos will hit them and push them onto the wall. Or the wall. Yeah, that was very clean from romulost. Edeas is struggling with it a little bit. It can be really hard because you need to get across this elevator. And you also need the Armos to get across the elevator, so it can kind of difficult. But he gets the actual trick first try. So the main strategy for Yuga 1 is you want to use arrows as often as possible, but you need to know when you run out of stamina and have to use your sword. Normally there's a visible stamina meter, but because they did sequences out of order and skipped some cutscenes, one of the cutscenes they skipped being the one where the stamina meter actually appears. They don't actually have a visual stamina meter, but they still have stamina, and it makes it harder to keep track of how much stamina you have, because you always have to have it in your head instead of being on screen. But they do still have stamina, and they need to be careful of that. They're going to be getting 2 silver rupee chests in the escape here, one of which is very fast, right at the beginning, and then there's one at the end they have to make a small detour for, but it's by far worth it, and absolutely necessary. The next part of the run is kind of set up for the rest of Hyrule. They're going to be getting the Pegasus boots and flippers, and then heading off to House of Gales. Along the way, they'll also pick up the bell, which is going to allow them to warp to weather vanes they've activated. And of course, they'll be renting most of the rest of their items, although some of them they will get later on right before they go to Lorel. They still need the bombs, they still need the bombs and hammer to do what they want to do in Hyrule, and do it fast. The Ice Rod and Hookshot will come later, and the Boomerang is completely useless. You will never see it. Even in 100% when you have to get it, you never use it, so it's kind of sad. Yeah, renting the bombs and hammer now, and then they're going to be making their first trip to Zora's domain. You need to make 2 trips to Zora's domain. One to bump into the Shady Guy, which allows you to both buy the Smooth Gem and then meet the Shady Guy again at Kakariko Village to get the Pegasus Boots. And then you have to go back to Zora's domain with the Smooth Gem in order to get the Flippers. It is actually possible to enter House of Gales without the Flippers, but the Flippers are required later on for Swamp Palace, so you just want to get them now. Because they need to make 2 trips to Zora's domain, they're going to be activating this Weather Vane. It only actually saves a couple seconds over just walking back here from Kakariko, or dashing back with the Pegasus Boots, but it is definitely faster. It's also possible to skip the bell, but that's definitely slower. Way slower. And it's pretty difficult anyways, so... And so here are the Pegasus Boots. Very useful for movement, they save time, plenty of time on movement alone, but there's several sequence breaks you can do with them that save a lot of time, particularly on Desert Palace and Ice Ruins. The interesting thing about the Pegasus Boots in this game is there's a startup animation where Link kind of stands in place while charging up, and then there's a stopping animation where Link kind of slides forward while ending the dash. The startup, you have to be careful that you don't dash when too close to an enemy, or the enemy will bump you out of your starting animation, and then you'll just have to start the dash again. But the ending slide is useful as well, because if you cancel the dash by sliding at the right distance away from a ledge, you'll kind of slide across the gap and then get to the other side if there's something to get across, which is obviously why that's useful. So you'll see several instances of dash sliding like that to cross gaps that are just the right distance. Okay, yeah. So this trick here, there's a cutscene on the stairs that's about 20 seconds that they want to avoid. They can do something called a bomb rod to get up to the upper area without climbing up those stairs. And the bomb rod basically is they place a bomb in front of them and then tornado rod with the right timing. They'll be hit at the top of their tornado rod by the bomb, and it'll kind of reset their collision and realize that Link is high enough to be on the upper ledge, so the game will just pop them up there. That one's kind of environment assisted though, because of that column kind of makes it the height you need a lot less lenient, or a lot more lenient, I should say. You don't need as much height because the column kind of pushes you up even further. But a lot of bomb rods, including one you'll see in Tower of Hera coming up, are have very few frames. The one in Tower of Hera is only 2 frames, just because the bomb is at its most exploded for so little time. And that cutscene is on the stairs is still there, which is why you have to avoid it on the way out. But now we have House of Gales. It's a pretty interesting dungeon, similar to Eastern Palace in that you do the first floor pretty standard, and then there's a big sequence break on the second floor that's going to allow them to get to the third floor early. And then they can basically skip the third floor by getting a key, an extra key from the second floor, instead of having to get the key on the third floor and move all the way around. You also notice they don't have the second item pouch. Once they get quick equip later on in the run, they're not going to need to pause anymore to equip items. So for the small amount of time where they would be able to save some equips, it's just not worth it to get the second item pouch. I bring that up because in that room with the fight, you would use the bombs to speed up that fight, but it's slower to equip the bombs and then go back to the tornado rod, so you just do a different strat. And then Rom did a fast strat in that room where instead of just waiting an extra cycle and then using the tornado rod to get on top of that platform early, he kind of merged around and then kind of did a tornado rod as he was walking over the void, which is only a couple frames, but it saves quite a bit of time. One cycle, and it gets you a couple extra rupees in routes where that matters. And then you can tornado rod from below to get this key, which sometimes puts you on top of that ledge, but that doesn't matter. And then they're going to come out here and get the boss key. You see Edeas doing the normal strat, where you just wait for the platform to come back. Rom has the big key, he's going to carefully walk through that fire, and then he's going to do a tornado rod to put that keys in a specific position. Luckily, that is consistent with how the keys moves depending on where you tornado rod. And then he's going to tornado rod under the keys, have the keys hit him to do essentially a bomb rod with the keys, and that resets his collision. The game realizes that Link is in the loading zone to go to the third floor, and it brings him to the third floor even though the fan isn't on. And then he does a dash slide in that room with the boss door to skip some cycles on the... I guess just one cycle on the platforms. So he's going to use the tornado rod at the start of the Margamill fight, and he's going to be doing the rest of the fight with bombs, including attacking the eyes. Each shell has 5 health, with a bomb doing 3 damage, a spin attack doing 2, and a slash doing 1. So 1 bomb and 1 spin attack on each shell is plenty enough. He's going to have to void out at one point, because voiding out resets your stamina. He wouldn't have enough stamina to do the entire fight otherwise. Most runners do it either right at the start of Phase 2, or right after the first hit of Phase 2. So this time on Phase 2 there's 4 shells. He is only on half a heart, but this boss doesn't damage you other than pushing you in the void. Or if you were to accidentally get hit by one of your own bombs, I guess you could take damage. But he's perfectly fine. And he's going to have to get this heart container anyways because it's faster. Collecting this heart container makes the pendant spawn right away. So all runners will always get this heart container. Theoretically, every other heart container in the game would be slower to get versus skipping it. But this is the only one that's faster, actually. Now it's time for Tower of Hera. The caves on Death Mountain are kind of standard. He's going to be taking some damage on the like dashing into rocks just to skip having to wait for some extra rocks down at the end. But he's going to get a health refill before, or he's going to get up to 2 hearts back before actually entering Tower of Hera. So as long as he doesn't lose more than 2 hearts, he should be fine on health. And obviously, if he doesn't mess up Tower of Hera, it's not a big deal. Though it is possible to lose quite a bit of health if you mess up the big trick in Tower of Hera, the Bomb Rod. So this dash is a little bit interesting because it's not a dash slide. Link kind of just sticks to this wall, and then you have to cancel it at the right time in order to not fall down. And basically what this does is it gets you from what is supposed to be the second cave to the third cave. They're really connected, but you're only supposed to be able to go from the third cave to the second, because it's like a vertical, the third is above the second. And choosing to only get 1 heart there, not a big deal, like I said. Tower of Hera is most runners' least favorite dungeon because of the Bomb Rod. Again, it's 2 frames. If you are early, you won't get hit. If you are late, you will still get hit by the bomb, which is why you can take quite a bit of damage if you're late a couple times. You also have to be... it requires using a bomb and the Tornado Rod, so you have to wait for a couple seconds in between each attempt to let your stamina recharge. And you want to kill these mini mold worms, because they can get in your way. Yeah, that was a little bit late. But second try from romulost, pretty good. First or second try aren't too much different. Less than 10 seconds, I would say. But after that, you have to wait quite a bit longer for stamina to recharge. I think the bomb and tornado rod together take up 5/6 of your stamina. You still have a little bit left, but then once you've had it recharge, you're basically down at 0 after your second attempt, so you have to wait much longer. And then they do the rest of the dungeon inbounds, just because it ends up being faster than staying out of bounds longer, which is something you can do, but basically you would just be waiting, standing in one place for your stamina to recharge in order to use the tornado rod a bunch, so it ends up being slower. Ooh, missing some arrow shots by Rom there. And he lands on the boss key chest, so that's going to cost him a cycle on these moving platforms. Edeas tries the bomb rod. It looks like he got it first try, so that's pretty good from both runners. A first try and a second try, not too bad. Coming up is the Moldworm fight. Moldworm has 7 health. Arrows do 2 damage. They're going to use 3 arrows and then 1 slash. Moldworm's speed depends on how much health he has left, which is why you want to really save that 1 slash for the end when it's going to be really difficult to line up an arrow shot. You kind of have to get a little bit lucky with Moldworm's patterns, but you can adapt to it. You want to stand pretty close to him to make the arrow shots easy, but then if he moves towards you, you kind of have to get out of the way. You can skip this heart container here if you drop down to the lower level, which Rom's not going to do for safety, I guess, in the marathon. If you drop down to the floor below you and then come back up, the pendant is just spawned without having to watch even this cutscene. So that's quite a bit faster. It looks like Edeas missed one of these crystals. Yeah, you can skip the cutscene where the pendant spawns if you go to the previous floor and then come back up. But I guess just for safety, Rom is going to choose to get the heart container. And now that he's got the pendants, he can get the Master Sword. You don't have to actually keep track of how the ghosts are flying in the middle. You just have to keep track of, or you just have to know which ghosts you have to follow right at the end when they fly off through the logs, I guess. And it's the same one every time. The first one is the one on the right, and then the second one is the one on the top and bottom. On the third one, I actually have no idea which ghost you're supposed to be looking at because you're always supposed to go south. And here's Master Sword. This is kind of a pretty chill segment of the run with a lot of cutscenes. You gotta get the Master Sword, which is just waiting for the ghosts to move. You got this cutscene, gotta rent some more items, get quick equipped, you gotta wait to meet Zelda, you gotta talk to Zelda, and then it's just basically, up until getting to Lower World, it's just a couple minutes of actual action. It's mostly just cutscenes. Getting to Lower World is pretty much the exact midpoint of the run, so it's kind of nice to have a short break in the action in the middle. So here they're getting Ice Rod and Hookshot, and then Quick Equip, which it will make it so they don't have to pause for the rest of the run to change items. It's also useful because if you bring up the Quick Equip menu in the middle of an item animation, it will cancel the item animation, which we call Quick Equip canceling. It's useful just for using an item more quickly in succession, but it's also nice because then you can move away faster after using an item, which is useful in a couple instances, particularly with the ice and fire rods. Each of those rods have a glitch that requires canceling their item animation, either with Quick Equip or with actually pausing normally and unequipping the item. Also accomplishes the same thing. So here you can just wait to have Impa call you in to meet Zelda, Or you can examine all 5 paintings here, like read the history of Hyrule or whatever. It's faster to just wait and do nothing. Shoutouts to Herediman for taking a bathroom break at this point in his match the other day and not coming back in time. Weak gamer bladder. Oh yeah, this cutscene. Zelda's not actually here, so the camera doesn't know what to do. I shouldn't say that. That makes it sound like I'm saying the game gets confused, which is definitely not what happens, because games do not get confused. It's just the camera doesn't get put in the right spot, because Zelda's not actually there. You actually only see Zelda twice in this run. Once as a painting right at the end, and then once coming up in the tower here. These couple rooms are just fighting or avoiding enemies. You'll get to see the first use of Quick Clip Cancel. You kill a soldier with the Ice Rod a lot more quickly than you'd be able to without Quick Clip Cancel. It's just by... You don't even have to change what item is equipped, you just have to open the menu and it'll automatically cancel the item, and then you can just re-equip the item. Or, like, just cancel the Quick Equip. Pretty much. And then here, there's a trick very similar to what was done in Eastern Palace. It's another Tornado Rod lift. This one's a lot more easy. A lot easier, I guess. And it allows them to skip fighting that Armos. And then you can do a quick clip kind of through the ceiling. Instead of having to stay on the ceiling and then drop down in the other room, you kind of clip through the ceiling while making the transition, and you fall right in the loading zone. Just a neat optimization. So here's Zelda. And this is pretty much the only time you see her, other than at the final boss. So through this next set of rooms, you can dash diagonally, but you risk kind of bonking on corners, which is seemingly random. We don't know if it's actually random or due to like sub-pixels or just very precise positions. So a lot of runners choose to just dash such that they, like, not diagonally so they don't bonk on corners. And then Yuga 2 coming up, they're going to want to get a 4th cycle by doing 2 spin attacks on the 4th cycle. And that can be a little bit difficult due to RNG, but it's not really too bad. You can tell which Yuga is the real one based on the flame on the staff. If, when going in the walls, the real one never crosses with one of the fake ones, it'll always stay the same one. If they do cross, then it can be either. So, that's really where it becomes random. If going from the third cycle to the 4th cycle, the real one crosses with the fake one, then it can be difficult to get to the real one in time to do 2 spin attacks. This can also happen where it loops all the way around the room for no reason. Yeah, so here they crossed, so he had to make sure he got to the real one in time. Low roll is much more open-ended than high roll. You can basically do the dungeons in any order, even in intended gameplay, the only restriction being that you're supposed to need the Sand Rod to do Desert Palace, and you gain access to renting the Sand Rod after beating Thieves' Hideout. You don't need the Sand Rod for Desert Palace with glitches, so you can do the dungeons in actually any order. But there are certain orders that are faster. You always want to do Swamp first because it's not Thieves, and yeah, other than Thieves, Swamp is closest to where you start, so you want to do it first. You want to save Thieves for last for a very important reason. Desert you always want to do after Swamp because it's pretty close to Swamp. And then Turtle you always want to do right after Dark because the fastest way to get to Turtle is from Dark Palace. Other than that, you can do the dungeons in any order. Which, there's more restrictions than it sounds, really. You basically only have 6 different choices for dungeon order. But those 6 do come down to preference, pretty much. Because due to quick equip and stuff like that, it doesn't actually matter, like, what items you have equipped or anything. It's also good that you do Swamp Palace first, because it's maybe the most reset heavy point in low roll, due to a trick that can lose you a lot of time, and even theoretically soft lock, but we haven't seen that happen in the tournament yet. So, normally you're supposed to need the big bomb flower to enter Swamp Palace, but you can do this trick called Ice Rod Clipping that takes advantage of quick equip canceling, and that was not how you do it, Romulus. You're supposed to put that torch out so you can actually stand on it. And then you can line up the Ice Rod in a specific way, do a quick equip cancel, which Romulus failed, and then the ice will actually push you out of bounds in the wall, and then you can get down under the water and into the loading zone. It's a relatively new trick for this game, even though it's almost 3 years old at this point. Most of the other tricks from this game were found in the first, 6 months after it came out. Back in late 2013, early 2014. So he's going to do another Ice Rod cancel, or Ice Rod clip here, to get into the room down to the right. And then in that room, he's going to be able to change the water level, get back out of bounds, and that's going to allow him to swim towards the boss room. And then, using very careful swimming and walking while standing on a very precise position that's like half inbounds, half out of bounds, you can walk to the loading zone that leads to the painting without fighting the boss. So we'll see how he does that. How well he does, I should say. You want to avoid these stairs because it's pretty hard to recover. So you need to get a pretty precise position in the water, which is somewhat difficult. It's not exactly pixel perfect, but it is pretty precise, and the angle's precise as well. And he voided, so that's a shame. Luckily, he respawns back here and can just go out of bounds again. That'll allow Edeas to catch up for sure. Edeas also failed getting into the dungeon. These Ice Rod clips are, I'd say they're a very tiny bit inconsistent, but usually not too bad. And looks like he's got the out of bounds movement down. Ooh, he voided. I spoke too soon. That's really going to allow Edeas to catch up quite a bit. say his lead has been cut over in half by these mistakes. Although Edeas could struggle with these tricks as well. This one here, this first one inside the actual dungeon, is probably the most inconsistent one. And he voted again. Meanwhile, Edeas is having some trouble with this clip. The one in the next room is a lot more consistent. It's just this one is so dumb. Really dumb sometimes. Yeah, Edeas could have tied up with Rom at this point. Rom's gotten so many chances at this, we'll see how he does. And he voided yet again. Meanwhile, Edeas getting the clip puts him probably only 15 seconds behind Rom at this point. Maybe 20. Rom's stream froze for me. So...
yeah, his stream is down right now.
Splicing confirmed.
Hopefully that comes back up again. Oh!
What? Oh. He accidentally entered the NTR menu, I think? That's fine, I think. I don't think he actually did anything.
Oh, I think Rom might actually just straight up be down. That's a slight issue.
Oh, his stream is down?
I think so. I'm not getting any connection from him. Let me see.
Meanwhile, Edeas attempting the boss skip, and he clips back in bounds. So he'll have to fight the boss. Looks like Rom's stream is back. Okay. Suddenly past Swamp Palace.
Okay, everything's back now. I think. Yep, okay, we're good. Sorry about that.
Yeah, okay, so... Okay. I would guess Rom eventually got the boss skip and how he's still on low health. Meanwhile, Edeas gotta have to be very careful here to not die to Argus. He's on very low health. Ooh, that's not good. Meanwhile, yeah, Desert Palace skip is a thing. Basically, he uses a Ice Rod clip to get out of bounds, Tornado Rod to then get up in bounds, a Flare Rod boost to get out of bounds again, but in a different area, and then he does a dash slide with the Pegasus Boots to skip fighting the boss, which completely skips the Sand Rod and all of the interior of Desert Palace. Both of these streams are buffering for me right now. I don't know what's going on.
That would be on your side. It's fine on the restream.
Yeah, it's probably on my end. So Rom, meanwhile, is heading for... Oh, I know why. Okay. When Rom's stream refreshed, it went back to 720p for me, and that's too much. Anyways, Rom is heading to Ice Ruins right now. The ore mine skip, basically by going to that bridge in low roll, does a fire rod boost to get on the bridge, hook shots across the other side, like left, right, across the bridge, and then he hook shots actually across the bridge, and stays out of bounds to avoid a hill text trigger. And now he's got to go through the ore mine, which is pretty much just an auto, or not the ore mine, the ice cave, which is pretty much just an auto scroller. There's one small thing you can do to save half a second. Meanwhile, Edeas is struggling with Desert Palace skip. And Rom's not going to go for the half-second time saver. Basically, you can Tornado Rod with the right timing, and then you can get on top of that platform instead of merging with it, which, every time you merge or unmerge, actors don't move for 15 seconds, so that slows down the auto-scroller by half a second. Yeah, things are not... I don't think... Well, Rom entering Ice Ruins. This is a very fast dungeon. He's basically going to go straight to the... Not actually fight the boss, but sort of fight the boss, you'll see. And then... You can clip out of bounds with this elevator, then... Assuming he does get out of bounds, this rim shot was in the way there. Get out of bounds, you can stay out of bounds by dashing up with the Pegasus boots. And then do precise out of bounds movement. He went very risky there, but worked out. And then you can kill the boss while it's unloaded. I don't know, my stream just is like cutting around from point to point. He's back out of bounds, okay. I don't know what's going on. Spoilers, he gets it. I don't know if I'm ahead or behind. And you basically go straight to the painting. Edeas, meanwhile, is doing a different dungeon order. He's going to do Skull Woods next. So Skull Woods is mainly just optimizing movement. Not a lot of tricks until the end. There's one big RNG point towards the middle of the dungeon. You can lose maybe 15 seconds due to bad RNG. Depending on how some enemies move. You need to make a cycle pretty much with the Wall Master. Floor Master, whatever. No, I think it's a Wall Master, yeah. Because you need to Tornado Rod, and if you Tornado Rod you're much higher, and the Wall Master pretty much grabs you right away if you're at that height. So if you're too slow to do the enemy movements in that room, you kind of have to wait for the Wall Master to come down before you do the Tornado Rod. These first couple sections are just pretty easy, avoiding some enemies, doing some quick cancels, moving in the dark. So it looks like Edeas is ahead of Rom right now, but different dungeon order. Looks like Edeas just barely got a good cycle with the Wall Master there, and the enemy movements. We call that the party room. Here in this room, you see the first instance of turning Gibdos into Stalfos, which is going to come up later in the dungeon as well. It just kills them a lot more quickly. One of them you can take out by getting the Wall Master to crush them, and the other one you can throw 2 bombs. One will turn the Gibdo into a Stalfos, and the other will kill the Stalfos, so... yeah, a bomb or the lamp or fire rod will... any source of fire really will turn the Gibdo into Stalfos. Meanwhile, Rom getting bad luck, he's going to have to wait for the Wall Master before going up. So there in that room, you turn the Gibdos into Stalfos and then take them out with a spin attack. Without any sword upgrades, which we're not going to be getting in this run, Gibdos just take too long to kill normally. So you can dupe the eyeball by throwing it at the pedestal, and then when you actually throw it in, if you also pull it, like, press A to pick it up again, you can do both, and then you can throw the one you have picked up into the other one. The reason you need to throw it at first is it kind of puts the hitbox... the eyeball's weird, it kind of, like, keeps track of the last place you picked it up, and so if you... the last place you picked it up is right in front of the pedestal, then you can both pick it up again and throw it into the pedestal kind of at the same time. That saves quite a bit of time, instead of having to go, like, outside again and getting the other eyeball. And then you can skip the boss with just a Tornado Rod. Really old trick, found the day the game came out. Sorry about that. Alright, I am back. I believe Edeas is going to be going to Ice Ruins next. Rom, meanwhile, finishing up Skullwoods. And then we'll be heading to Dark Palace. Yeah, so sorry about that again. Edeas heading to Ice Ruins, Rom heading to, well, finishing up Skullwoods, just did. And we head into Dark Palace, which is a dungeon we haven't seen yet. So, we'll see. It'll be interesting to see if Edeas does this half-second time saver. Looks like he's probably not going to do it based on his positioning. It's pretty lenient, but yeah, he's not going for it. Too big of a risk. So normally to get to Dark Palace, you're supposed to go through this big maze where there's a bunch of guys who will like throw you in jail if they catch you. You can skip most of that using an enemy that'll like bump you out of bounds using a tree. It's a little bit luck-based. The actual trick isn't luck-based. Setting it up can take a little bit longer if you get bad luck with where this enemy is spawned. And there's one other enemy you have to avoid that you can usually kill pretty quickly. You can skip a text here, this cutscene, but because you have to come back to this area to go to Turtle Rock, it's not faster to skip it. If you just merge along the wall, the cutscene wouldn't play. And then so you can manipulate that Snapdragon to be in the corner, stun it with a hook shot, and then bonk into the tree with the Pegasus boots, and that'll pop you up onto the ledge. And you can just walk around the tree to skip most of the maze. If you fall in the water there, it's pretty bad because it can be difficult to get out, but it is possible to get out, I should say. Edeas choosing to save before Ice Ruins. Here we have Dark Palace. It's a lot of darkness. And usually you don't have the lamp equipped, so you kind of just have to know where you have to go. Dark Palace doesn't really have any tricks in it, but it's just got a lot of equip optimizations and movement optimizations and things like that. Lots of quick equipping in this dungeon. You need the lamp, bombs, hookshot, fire rod, bow, and ice rod for this dungeon, which is like all the items you have except for like hammer and tornado rod. So lots of different equips you have to make. Meanwhile, Edeas got Ice Ruins, Skip, and Dark Stair Skip. Basically, the gimmick of Dark Palace is you need to go to the top floor to break the barriers that let light shine down here in order to open the way to the boss door. And luckily, the boss key is not too far away. It's just in this room over here to the left. This room can be interesting though, because you need to throw bombs across the gap, and sometimes the bombs can just despawn for no reason, or even fall in the gap sometimes. This will gonna get a stamina potion probably. Yeah, especially now that the bomb despawned, but he wants to get a stamina potion during the boss anyways, so it's better to just get one now because you're gonna get the text box anyways. This boss, you have to be really quick with switching back and forth between lamp and bombs. You want to place 3 bombs, quickly switch to the lamp and walk over here. And then you need to switch back to bombs to throw 1 more after getting this energy, or the stamina potion. And that's the first phase. The second phase, you need to quickly switch to lamp. And you want to kind of manipulate him so that you light the second of these torches when he's nearby you. Because if not, he can just be in a completely different place, and then he'll just like walk around. A lot of times he doesn't even attack you if he's not near you. He'll just completely walk around ignoring you. He can even do that now. Sort of like what he's doing now. Bad luck, because he put the torches out again. The second one you don't have to wait because there's no cutscene. Yeah, that boss is pretty much just RNG. Oh, Edeas is doing the maze skip. Got it, no problem. Looks like Rom will probably get the heart container here. Yeah. Mostly, you just get heart containers for health refills instead of just having more health. Obviously, this is a race, though, so they're good for safety. So to get to Turtle Rock, which is the next dungeon, Rom's going to head backwards through this maze, and then he's going to do a Fire Rod boost out of bounds. And then basically just walk out of bounds towards Turtle Rock. On this screen right here. You gotta be careful to avoid the Hinox on the screen, but as long as you stay away from it, it usually doesn't attack you. And if you fall in the water here, it's okay, it's a little bit slower. If you fall out of bounds onto land, that's bad, because you have to go back and clip out of bounds again. But this is Turtle Rock. Normally you're supposed to need to rescue the turtles, and then you ride on the turtles' backs to get the Turtle Rock, but you can do a trick called Animation Storage, where you swim up against the dock there, store the animation of jumping up onto the dock, and then you can use that animation whenever you rub up against a wall to jump up out of bounds there, and then Tornado Rod through the grate. Turtle Rock itself is pretty short. You're basically going straight to a boss key skip. You need to get to the other floor to do that. But there's this Wizrobe fight in the middle, which is not difficult at all. The boss key, this dungeon, there was an original method, which skipped a key. You still got the boss key, though. Then there was a really difficult version of the boss key skip, which was a frame-perfect bomb rod. And now there's a much easier method where you can essentially do a bomb rod off a Wizrobe, which makes the trick a lot more easier because the Wizrobe's shot is going horizontal instead of the bomb explosion, which expands vertically. So, not sure what happens there, but he got it. So, I think he got it and then immediately fell off, but then got put back up there, so not entirely sure. That was, yeah, when I saw him fall, I thought he was going to have to do the trick again, but I guess it put him back on top, which is good for him. Yeah. Anyways, this fight is another RNG-based fight, but the first phase really isn't too bad. It's the second phase. He has 3 attacks he can do, one of which is the headbutt, which is the best one. He can spin, which is pretty fast if you can take damage to end the attack early. And then there's the flame, which is slow because you just have to wait for it to finish no matter what. The number of headbutts he does, like when this boss does a headbutt, the number it does depends on how much health it has. usually it starts out as 1, then it goes to 2, and when he has very little health left it's 3. And very funny story. One runner didn't know that it could go up to 3 and died because of it, I believe, in a marathon or in a race or something. So, yeah. That was pretty good luck, I believe. Around average, I'd say. You almost never get just headbutts on this boss. Yep, so now it's just Thieves Hideout left. Thieves Hideout last in any percent. Skips the Triforce cutscene because in and that's the only reason you get this blacksmith vein here. The code to get in is 231, because 23 is number 1, you know? Classic Ocarina of Time reference. But Thief's Hideout is very boring as a dungeon. Just Thief Girl with a dungeon, which is not fun. You need to do this statue puzzle because you need to open the door. Even though you're not going to be going through it now, you need it to be open so that Thief Girl can walk through it later on. Link can walk through a door that is closed from behind, but Thief Girl can't, so you need to open it. But right after he solves this puzzle, he's going to push the statues again in a different way to clip out of bounds and get to the sort of the ceiling of the floor below, but not exactly, because that doesn't exactly have a ceiling. It's kind of complicated. He'll kind of be in between this floor and the floor below him, and you'll see that in a very interesting way. So he's on basement 1. Nope, he's on basement 2. No, he's on basement 1. No, he's on basement 2. No, he's on basement 1. No, he's on basement 2. No, he's on, yeah. Game doesn't exactly know what floor you're on there, because you're kind of in between. So the camera kind of flips out a little bit. But basically you can get straight to the mini-boss here. And you don't want to be on full health for the mini-boss, because then you'll have sword beams, and sword beams can mess the spacing of the Igors up. You really want to get a 2-cycle, but that requires having all the Igors spawn for the second time. Or like, all the Igors need to open their eye for the second time around the same time. And be roughly in an arc, so that none of them are blocking each other. But other than that, the rest of the dungeon is just escorting Thief Girl to the end, making sure she doesn't get caught. Which is rare, but it can happen. The boss is pretty easy. Something keeps happening. Edeas keeps bringing up, like, the NTR menu? By accident, I guess? I'm not sure exactly what that is. No, Ron's stream is frozen for me. Oh, no. I think he was just pulling the switch. I think it was the cutscene where it showed him pulling the switch, not actually the stream frozen. Anyways, this big basement room... Yeah, there's not a lot to say for Thieves' Hideout. You're pretty much doing the dungeon completely normally, with some minor optimizations. Like, you can skip that cutscene where a bunch of enemies spawn just by avoiding the red blocks on the other side of that wall. You could have dashed... If you had canceled your dash in the right way on top, you can slide down and land below during that cutscene, but it doesn't really... It's only about a second or two difference. And you can use a sword to hit that switch. You can use a sword beam if you have it, but usually you don't because you wanted to be on not full health for Igors. You can also use an arrow, which is a little bit safer than the sword slash, but I'd say it's ever so slightly slower. And then here, coming up, you have to fight two of these guys. I forget what these enemies are called, but you want to use 2 bombs on the one on the left and entirely take care of the one on the right with swords. And as long as that guy is in, like, the animation of being hit by a bomb, he can't pick up Thief Girl, so as long as you start attacking him right away, it's fine. And then you can get the boss key a little bit early by doing a tornado run onto the handle instead of riding the thing while merged. And then the boss of this dungeon is completely destroyed by the hammer. It does double hits for some reason. I believe it also does double damage. It's really confusing what the hammer does to this boss, but kind of just destroys him. Yeah, that was a pretty good fight. Then it's just Laurel Castle left. I guess Rom's probably going to do a safety save here. Before entering Laurel Castle. Especially considering what happened in his last race in round 4. he died, I believe, and didn't rent enough items to actually be able to get through Laurel Castle. Or, he could have gone through Laurel Castle with the items he rented, he just didn't know how, because he didn't get the bow. But he's not gonna save, so... So you do trial skip by going to the bomb trial. You need to get about halfway through the trial to get to where the big bomb flower is, and this large rock. And you can basically... There's a couple methods for it. We're gonna see Rom do... This is not what I thought Rom was gonna do. Okay. He's going to do the old method, so he's gonna use a small bomb, and a spin attack in a precise position, and then he's going to release the spin attack to be recoiled with the bomb at the right time, to be hit up onto the outbounds wall, and then he can get behind the door that opens when you finish the trials, and get to Yuyanin. That wasn't too bad. Normally we see him do an alternate method. Most runners choose to do that alternate method because instead of being frame perfect, it's position perfect. Or position precise, I'm not sure it's actually pixel perfect. But Rom choosing to do that old method, I'm assuming because he's maybe out of practice with the other method. Now just the final boss. So the first phase, you kind of just have to deal with whatever he gives you. Once he starts teleporting and doing stuff, yeah, like once he's on like under half of his health, he starts to do some more attacks. And that's when you can manipulate him into doing the attack where he throws his spear, which is the best attack because you can just get a ton of hits in on him while the spear is like going around. So we'll see if Rom's able to do that. Looks like that's what he's doing. Yeah. Every time he appears after doing the attack, you kind of just want to shoot the bow at him. That'll make him teleport right away. And then, he won't always do that attack, but a lot of times he'll do the attack where he throws his spear. And anytime he does the orbs where he's, like, disappears for a while and just orbs come down, you can always go to the top of the room and then he'll throw the spear, or he'll appear at the bottom. Yeah, here's the manipulation. You just messed it up at that one part. He's on 4 hearts, which means he can take 1 hit from the fairies. They do 2 hearts. Shouldn't be too hard to avoid. Ooh, Edeas fell down. He's gonna have to go back a couple rooms to get Thief Girl. That's unfortunate. Yeah. Tennis on Yuganon is not really where you have to worry about taking damage. It's in between the phases of tennis where there's a bunch of fairies and things you have to avoid. Between the first and second phase, pretty easy. Pattern's a little bit harder on the second phase just because there's more of them. But he can, like I said, take 1 hit, so. You can also merge along the wall, in between the flames coming out of the wall, and then you won't take any damage. Of course, it doesn't last exactly the entire cycle. You have to kind of dodge them for a little bit. I'm also taking tennis pretty safe with how far away he's standing. You can do what we call crazy tennis, where you just consistently walk towards Yuganon. and then basically the recoil you get from hitting the orb keeps you far enough away to actually do tennis. But it's pretty risky. Yeah, that's it. That's Uganon. Just the final 360 no-scope coming up all the way around the room on that shot. And then just about a minute until he actually touches the Triforce. This will be a 128 from Rom. Not a bad time. I think he's a little bit out of practice. But still anything under 130 is still pretty good. Yeah, for one. Yeah, he's been playing some other games recently. Still not bad at all. Well, he is finishing up Thieves' Hideout. About 9 minutes, I believe, from beating Thieves' Hideout to the end of the run, so if you do everything really fast, I should say. So, looks like Rom finished with a 128.13. GG to him, and he already went offline, looks like. Okay.
I guess we're not getting an interview with Roms then, unfortunately. But we can at least see Edeas finish up his run.
Yep. Oh, the Monster Horn. Classic. I'm not sure if Edeas is going to be doing the original trial skip or the new method, which uses the big bomb. Basically, with the new method, you use the big bomb, and then you line up your position using a visual cue using the hookshot. Well, we're not going to get to see it. Pretty much, you just use the big bomb flower to recoil you, which makes the timing more lenient, but the position's pretty precise. So, anyways, old method it is. So as Edeas finishes up here, Rom has won the quarterfinal. Means he'll be some revenge of sorts. Oh, my stream was behind. He's got trial skip, looks like. Maybe? Or I'm ahead. I think I might be ahead now. Whoops. Oh. I think it just fixed itself. Alright. Looks like he's not exactly doing the manipulation. Now he started doing it. He's getting good luck at least with the attacks. He's just not getting to take full advantage of the spear throws. Oh, that was not good. He's down to 2.5 hearts. We'll have to be very careful on the second phase. So as long as he's able to avoid all the fairs, he can actually take one hit coming up. But that's really the last place in the run you can die. It's really not possible to mess up the last tennis because you can just mash for it. And he does take one hit, but he'll be able to merge for the rest of the time. That's as close as you can get, just half a heart left. But it works.
Have you got time for interview with Edeas, Purple?
Yeah, I got a couple minutes.
Okay.
Looks like his final time 1:39:34? 32. 32. Okay.
Hey.
Hello.
Oh, just 2 seconds, my Discord. Now, it's good. Hello.
Hello. Yeah, GG's to finishing.
Thanks. Well, I'll be honest, it was the expected result.
Yeah, Rom had a pretty good run outside of Swamp Palace.
Yeah. I didn't really see that much of his run, I just saw that he was constantly one temple ahead of me.
Pretty much. You are not too far behind him at Swamp Palace. But
Yeah. Yeah, I also messed up quite a bit right there.
Mm-hmm. Like he voided, I think, for the third time, right as you got that first clip inside the dungeon.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
And that was
And
as close as you two guys got.
Yeah.
But yeah, Danny kind of pulled ahead in lower roll.
Yeah, I had a lot of small mistakes, like mistakes I don't usually do, like failing the fire rod boost on Desert Palace skip.
I saw that.
Twice, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe that happened.
Yeah. And then I got trolled by bombs in Dark Palace. And also, let me not forget that I entered the NTR debug screen twice.
Yeah, you brought up that debug screen several times.
I didn't realize what happened myself. I just, what? Did my thing crash? And I was, no, I could read some text there. Because I think it's like X and Y together, which is kind of stupid because it's not that hard to press. But I've never done it in a run before, so I got kind of surprised.
Oh, that's why.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to update the challenge page with the bracket, but I'm logged out, so
Yeah.
I didn't realize I got logged out. Where's the login button? No, I am logged in. Why can't I... What? Hello? My tournament. ALBW 2019 90% tournament. There it is, okay.
Yeah.
So, yes, Rom will now be facing Araxis,
Yeah.
which is a rematch of round 4, in which
Yeah,
Rom
what
forfeited.
happened in
So,
the ROM forfeited or forfeit the last?
Rom got to like Laurel Castle and then made some mistakes. He like died somewhere. I forget if it was in Laurel Castle or
Okay.
somewhere else. And he had to rent items again, but he didn't rent the bow, and I guess he didn't know how to get through Laurel Castle without it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be quite a different bracket otherwise.
But yeah, thanks for the commentating and the restream.
No problem.
Yeah.
So there is one more quarterfinal match. Ben and Wanu have to face
Yeah.
in quarterfinal 3.
I think that should be kind of exciting because I think those two are kind of close in skill.
Yeah, they are pretty close. Although Anwanu's PB has improved since the tournament began.
Oh, okay.
He's now got a 124. He's ahead of even Herediman now.
Oh, damn.
And the winner will face Herediman.
Yeah.
So Herediman did beat both Anwanu and Ben during the Swiss phase, but either of those matches could go either way. Like, Anwanu or Ben either could win, and either of them could beat Herediman, or Herediman could beat either of them. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah, it should be exciting.
Hopefully that'll get played soon. I know N1 and Ben's schedules don't exactly work well together. Ben's usually available on the week during the week, and N1 is usually available on the weekend, so hopefully they'll be able to work something out to play it in the next couple days.
Yeah, when did the staff thing with the staff marathon with CSR start?
Oh, that was this past weekend, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's
that was
over.
last weekend. That's gone.
We're just trying to get the tournament done by, like, hopefully by, like, next weekend.
Yeah, but
it
the
might
finals
spread
are
into the
best
weekend
of 3, right?
after that. The finals are probably best of 3, yeah.
I guess that, or depending on the runners, it might have to be done
It's
in
up
several
to
days.
whoever. Yeah, it's up to who is in it, but best of 3 I think would be the best thing to do.
Yeah.
A little part of me is rooting for an all Brazil final, Rom versus Anwanu. But I guess I should be neutral because I'm the organizer. Alright, I think that's it.
Yeah, I hope whoever has the lowest seed as of now, I hope that person wins. So I think that's Araxis.
Araxis is the 1 overall seed, yeah.
Yeah. So, hoping for an underdog victory.
Well, to wrap things up here, thank you to Edeas and Romlost, I believe it was.
Yeah.
The screen open. Yeah. Okay, Romlost for the as our 2 runners today. Very entertaining, and wish Rom. Is there a loser bracket or is it just Romlost?
No. We had a Swiss phase. Now this is just single elimination.
Okay. Well, good luck to Romlost with his upcoming matches then. And thank you, Purple, for stepping in literally last second to do this. Really appreciate it, so we could get this match underway. Thank you, everyone.
No problem.
Thank you, everyone, for watching. It was very entertaining. If you, we don't have any more scheduled matches for this right now, but I believe we still have the link to the past randomizer cross key tournament happening on ZSR1. So if you want to watch that, then I'll do a raid for that. But other than that, thank you everyone for watching, and I'll see you guys.